Billy, I want to start with a moment of glory, that FA Cup final victory over Arsenal in 1980. You described lifting the cup as a moment when you really lost touch with reality. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think it's every boy's dream to get to Wembley and lift the cup. I think the first time I went there with the Fulham game, I think everything sort of passed you by a little bit and you didn't really take it all in. And when we got to the final again 5 years later, I just felt that I was going to try and remember everything and take it all in, and this time I did, and it was just a marvellous feeling, just lifting that cup up, and then you get all that noise come back at you from around the stadium. It's just a thing that stays with you forever, really.
Very much the underdogs as well against First Division Arsenal.
Yeah, I think that made the day, really. I mean, the Fulham game was a poor game. It wasn't a good game of football, and we were expected to win. But the Arsenal thing, obviously, we didn't nobody gave us a chance. They, Arsenal were going for everything that year, and had some great players in their side. But on the day, we deserved to win the game, and to beat Arsenal and beat a First Division side as good as them was a great occasion for us.
And the goal came from an unusual source as well.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor, he doesn't score many with his head, but he popped up in the box. I suppose it was a little bit of good fortune about it. I think it was Stuart Pearson or Crossy hit a shot across the face, and it was going. Just tried to hit a shot, and he stooped down and just deflected it in. So, but the build-up was good. Dev got down the side, and we had a couple of little ricochets in the box. And I think the main thing about that day was they didn't create too much against us, Arsenal. We were very solid. John messed around with a couple of things. He played Stuart Pearson a little bit deeper, in a deeper role. Was
that lifting the cup in that 80 final? Was that the pinnacle of your personal career?
I think I've had some great moments. I mean, I think every day you spend in the game's a smashing moment. Whether you're winning or losing, I think it's all part of playing. You have your ups and downs in the game. That's obviously one of the best moments. I mean, the European thing was some of those nights we had at Upton Park will always be in my memory. It's been marvellous just playing football for a living sort of thing, because you're getting paid good money for doing something you'd love.
Well, Wembley was not even a figment of your imagination when you were first introduced to a football by your father, Arthur. How big an influence was he on your career?
My dad was the biggest influence of all. He was the one who encouraged me at a very early age to go out and play. He'd always turn up at school games on a Saturday morning when I played with the local from my school, Middle Park. He'd always be there on the touchline encouraging me, and he was the biggest influence in my career. He gave up a lot so I could get on with playing football. He used to, take me down to the different games and give me all the encouragement I needed. And he was probably my biggest critic as well. He was never one for sort of when I turned pro and became a professional footballer. He was never one to saying it wasn't your fault, it was somebody else's. He'd lay it on down. He'd say, well, bloody awful today. His favourite saying was one to forget. Like if I'd had a bad one, But he was my biggest critic as well.
What is your earliest recollection of organised football at that junior level? Do you remember your very first school game?
I was kicking a ball I've got a photograph with my dad. He's older than my brother, and I was kicking a ball at sort of 18 months, 2 years old sort of thing. So I started very young, but probably the first recollections are, playing on the block with the kids. Used to play out in the street with a ball, keeping the ball up, who could keep it up the most times. And we organised a five-a-side team called the Magpies down at the local park. We'd play local teams, five-a-side football, and then obviously you just go on into your school team when you get to about 9 years old. And I just played from the school and then your district and your county sort of thing, and just progress from there.
What position were you playing then?
I think you didn't play in a position, you just ran all over the park, wherever the ball was I went sort of thing, took free kicks, goal kicks, everything, and you just followed the ball.
Were you basically up front or at the back?
Basically up front, at the back, wherever I wanted to go, I had no discipline in those days.
What was the greatest thrill at that age? Scoring goals?
No, just playing, just going out and playing and enjoying it. Just going, kicking the ball, just keeping the ball up, not necessarily scoring goals, just keeping the ball up and practicing with the ball, just enjoying it,
Well, you were at, as you said, Middle Park Junior School and then the Eltham Green Comprehensive, but you say that you weren't quite in unison with the academic life at those schools, that sport was very much the key in your life.
Yeah, it was always my priority was to go out and play, whether it was I had a time playing rugby there at Eltham Green, and any sport. I loved doing any sport and really didn't have time for homework in it.
Well, you were a fair scrum half, I believe.
I had a little, we had when you first went to the school, you had a 6-week period of rugby and football, and then you could decide what you wanted to do for the rest of your time at the school. And I had 6 weeks of rugby and really enjoyed it. I thought it was, I still love watching it. It's a good game.
And of course, you got representative honours at school.
Yeah, I played from the district and played from the county, and then obviously Charlton spotted me and I went along for a trial with Charlton.
Do you recall the first game you saw there?
Very young, very early memories I've got of being on my dad's shoulders at games where there was, 50, 60,000 crowds down there. I remember I was at an Arsenal game down there when they were in the first division. Very, very, not very clear memories, but I remember being with my dad and on his shoulders or standing on an orange box or something, just to see the game. And then I started to get involved a little bit later on, going down, and we stand on the halfway line every Saturday afternoon. We get a bus down to Woolwich Common, walk across the Common, and then go into the ground and watch Charlton play. Sammy Laurie, Stuart Leary, Johnny Summers, Billy Kiernan, people like that. Derek Upton.
Great atmosphere in those days as well.
Yeah, it used to be it's a lovely old ground, full of tradition, and you always saw a lot of goals down there. One season I was watching, I think it was a 6-6 game, a 7-6 game, a 5-2. There was always bags of goals down there, and it was always enjoyable. Always enjoyed it.
Now, you left school at 15, determined to be a professional footballer, and indeed I believe that Charlton Athletic actually offered you a place on their ground staff, but fatherly advice turned you towards a trade. I don't think you were too happy about that.
No, I wasn't unhappy about it. My dad was worried that if I didn't make a footballer, because I wasn't certain to make a footballer then, I was no world beater at that, I wasn't a world beater, and Dad just felt that if I didn't make a footballer, then I ought to have a trade behind me, another string to my bow. And I went across to Frank Hill, got me an apprenticeship at Stones, who make propellers and things like that. And I went across there. I lasted there 6 months. I think it was 6 months. It was probably about the worst time of my life, and hated it, and said to my dad, I couldn't stick it, so I put all my eggs in one basket and said, well, if I don't make a football, that's it. And I went on the ground staff at Charlton.
So tell us about those days as a ground staff boy at Charlton, because the lunchtime chats in the groundsman's shed you told me about, and the climax on a Friday when you marked out the pitch and so on.
Yeah, it was, they were happy days for me. We used to have our lunch down in the basement. There's an old boiler room there, it's probably still there, just where the old boiler room was. Go down some steps, and we used to go up the local cafe round the corner and get sausage sandwiches and cups of tea, and wander back down there and have it down there. And all the pros had gone home, and then we used to get our jobs done in the afternoon, just mark out the pitch and cut the pitch, all different jobs, odd job man. But they were lovely memories, fond memories I've got of the place. And I think when Charlton left there, it was probably not so much Charlton, the players and everything, it's the ground that meant as much to me as anything. That's the heart of the club, and it'd be nice if I went back there.
Could we just elucidate a bit on Bob Stoke, because he also had a bearing on your career as well?
Yeah, Bob, he was the manager who sold me to West Ham. Very honest man, very tough man, very hard man, but very fair. I didn't have long with Bob, I was, once Frank Hill left, Bob took over and I was really gone then, Bob signed me Ron got interested, and I went across to West Ham. So I didn't have long with Bob, but you know, he was a very tough man, and I think I learnt a little bit from him. You know, you pick up from little bits and pieces from people as you go along the way, and you know, Bob was a very honest and very tough man.
Disciplinarian.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, but you know, as I say, you learn a little bit from each one.
The 20th of February 1965, that was a thrilling day for the Bonds household. Your first team debut against table-topping Northampton Town.
Yeah, came in and just said, you know, you're playing against Northampton tomorrow, and I told my mum and dad, and they were all thrilled about it. You know, obviously your first big break, and Northampton were a good side then. They were going up through the leagues. I think they'd come 4th, 3rd, 2nd into the first. They were going to go that year, and I think they came right back down after that. But they were a tough side. I played against Tommy Robson, who was a good player, and Theo Farley was playing fullback. A very disciplined side, you know. They were very disciplined side. But I think we got a 1-1 draw. So in the end, you know, it was a good result for the team, and I'd had a fair game, so I was pleased with it.
You kept Robson under control, did you? Because he later went to Chelsea.
Yeah, I did. I don't know about under control, but I'd come out 50-50 with him, sort of thing, you know, which wasn't bad on the day.
And afterwards, you were satisfied with your performance?
Yeah, I was well pleased. Yeah, I got into the side, and the side had got a good result, and you know, I was pleased with it.
Now, as we know, West Ham United came in for you. Did you have any inkling at all that they were interested in you before the actual meeting? No,
not really. I mean, you just read things in the papers. There was reports that certain clubs were interested. You know, I'd seen things only like you see nowadays. You don't know how true they are. I'd seen that Sunderland and Leicester and Crystal Palace and 1 or 2 others. I don't think West Ham had even been mentioned. So really, you know, I just you don't really know, really, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, you played 100 games for Charlton, 95 of them in the league. Any particular game that stands in your memory?
No, not really. I mean, we were always struggling against relegation, basically. You know, it was always a struggle. But I enjoyed every one of them. I mean, we didn't have any cup runs. I remember going away for a cup training thing. We went down to, I think it was Margate for 2 or 3 days, and we come back and got beat by Preston. So that didn't work. And then the other year, I think Sheffield United put us out of the cup. So really, there wasn't a lot of success there, if you like. You know, we were struggling, but I don't think that did me any harm. You know, you see the other side of things. You know,
helps form the character.
Well, I think so. Yeah.
So, could you tell us about the first meeting with Ron Greenwood? Because was this the first time you'd ever met him?
Yeah, he came down to watch me against Birmingham City. We won 1-0, and Bob said to me that Ron Greenwood wanted to have a chat with you, and he took me into a room, and I remember upsetting Ron because I said, you know, well, before I sort of sign, there's 1 or 2 other clubs interested, you know, and I remember sort of Ron leaving the room and Bob coming back in and saying, you know, you've upset him, you know, you shouldn't be talking about other clubs. The man's come over here and he wants to sign you. And probably I was a little bit green, and it was the pair of them maybe getting together, and you know, I mean, once he said he's upset, I thought, well, blimey, what have I done, you know, and I signed on the dotted line then, like, it was no problem, you know.
Well, you came across to Upton Park and better facilities, as you've already said. Did you feel at all inhibited by the likes of Bobby Moore, Martin Peters and Jeff Hurst?
I mean, directly I come through the gates. I mean, the ground is, compared with Charlton's, was much more was special, like, you know. And then and when you think, I mean, I remember Moro came up to for our prize, presented our medals. So you know, he was always like a film star to me, Moro. I mean,
this was when you were
when I was 12 years old. He came up with his wife Tina and sat up on the stage and presented the medals to us. And you know, I think from that day, you know, I always sort of held him in awe, sort of thing, you know. And to come over and sort of be in the same side and play on the same side as him was scary, really. You know, it was scary at first. You know, I mean, he's probably the one player I think I've never had too much. I respect players in the opposition, but I've never worried too much about names and reputations. But I think Moro, I did hold him in above everybody else. You know, he was like a superstar. If they use that word a lot, superstar. I think it's overused now, but I mean, he was a superstar.
He had a sort of a quiet charisma about him.
Yeah, I think you never really got to know him, but he was always very friendly and very helpful to me. But you never really got to know him as that well. But I always there was always something special about him.
Now, your first game was at right back against Sheffield Wednesday at Upton Park. A 2-3 defeat, unfortunately, when Hurst and Peters were on the score sheet. And indeed, you played most of your first 3 seasons with the Hammers at right back. Did you feel comfortable there?
Well, that was my position. I mean, I played midfield for Charlton youth team, and really got taken out of there because I wasn't probably good enough. Probably a little bit one-paced in there, didn't pass the ball well enough. And Jock Bassford just felt that I'd be better coming onto the ball at fullback, and so he moved me there, and I played there for Charlton, and that was my position from then on, because I could get forward from there, and that's what I love to do. But obviously, I think coming to West Ham and the coaching there made me a better player, and obviously later on I progressed went into midfield.
Yeah, because it was a period when actually the pattern of the game was changing, wasn't it? Where fullbacks had been fullbacks before and wingers had been wingers. They were tending to use different formations, and the fullback was asked to get forward.
Yeah. Well, I'd always like getting forward. I mean, that was something I always did. I was quite happy doing. I used to love to get forward, so that was never a problem for me. If manager wanted me to get forward, that's what I'd love to do anyway. So that wasn't a problem.
After that very first game against Sheffield Wednesday, what were your feelings? I mean, the difference between playing in the Hammer side and playing in Charlton side?
Well, you're going back a long time now, but I mean, basically you were playing with some great players then, and at a much bigger club, bigger gates. I mean, it was a bigger club all round. Just and as I say, I don't think I was overawed by it all, but obviously it was a little bit worrying at first, the players were good, and you had experienced people there, and they helped you settle in. They made you feel at home.
You never wanted to show your emotions, but were you at all nervous in those days?
I think you're always nervous. I mean, right up to sort of now, there's always nervous energy you expend before a game. But I think you've got to be nervous. If you're too casual and laid back about things, it doesn't matter to you. I think if you've got a little bit of nerves, then obviously it shows you care a little bit, Now, in your opening 4 years, the best season undoubtedly was the 1968-69 one, when the team finished 8th in the First Division. Those were the days when Harry Redknapp and Ronnie Boyce were at their peak, when Geoff Hurst scored 6 times in an 8-0 victory over Sunderland. And they must have been very satisfying days for you. Yeah, I mean, they were great days. I mean, the side, basically, we were never going to win a championship, but although we had great players and a lot of good players.
You felt that?
Well, no, I don't think we ever were, because we'd always give too much away. I mean, we could lose to a poor side at the bottom of the league one week and then beat the best side in the league the next. We were too inconsistent. But we entertained people, and that's what people wanted to see. I mean, and I think that's carried over. That's a reputation West Ham have had through the years. And I don't think it's hurt the club really.
Little headway was made in the Cups in those days, and in January 1971 the notorious nightclub incident rocked the West Ham boat at Blackpool. How much of a shock was it to the younger players to learn that the skipper Bobby Moore was involved?
I don't think it was a shock. I mean, we just it came out in the papers, and it's like everything else. These things do go on in football, and it happened. And but you, as a professional, you just get on and do what you were doing. We had a game at Blackpool. We lost 4-0. I mean, that was probably if we hadn't lost 4-0, it would have never come out in the papers. I don't know, but. Probably it was the worst game I've ever seen Moro play. I'll say that. I mean, I've not seen him play many bad ones. I mean, you could count them on one hand, but probably the worst game he's ever played. But having said that, I didn't go to a nightclub, and it was probably one of my worst games. So, the team were dreadful on the day. It was a frozen, bumpy pitch, and we were dreadful on the day. And it wasn't just the 4 that had gone to the nightclub. The whole side was poor. But you just get on with it. It's you're a professional. You just got to get on and do your thing.
By now, there had been a few changes in the personnel. Peter Grotio was in goal, Frank Lampard was established at left back, Tommy Taylor was in the centre of the defence, and the introduction of John McDowell at right back released you to a midfield role, one that you seem to enjoy.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed it. You know, once like I'm saying here at fullback, I love to get forward, and I was in the thick of things there. Around that age, I was probably in the prime as well. I know it sounds silly because I went on another sort of 15 years after that or something like that, but I think that was my prime time. You know, around the League Cup things with Stoke and I really loved playing in there because I had bags of energy. I loved to get up and down, and I was always involved in the game there.
Well, just what an influence you were in this position we can see in a 3-0 win at Crystal Palace in October 71, when in fact you headed a goal and set up one for Clyde Best.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was Addy Coker's. I think Addy played that day as well, so I remember that quite well because I think Jimmy Hill was saying what a prospect Addy was going to be, you know, and it was on the TV that day. Yeah, I remember that game well. But as I say, yeah, I loved playing in midfield because I did love to get forward as well.
Those 3 points that Crystal Palace have taken from their last 2 games have taken them off the bottom of the First Division. Bobby Kellard, right in that goal mouth there, the corner coming up and Bonds going for it. And Cougar! He scored! The young lad, 17, playing in his first game, 7 minutes gone, and a rocket-like shot that gave Jackson no chance. What a start for him! Delighted! Good bit of poison control there by the youngster, and now it's Brooking, set free there by Robson. And there's Redknapp going in. What a terrible mistake there in the Palace defence, as Jackson and McCormick looked at each other, and Redknapp very nearly nipped in for what could have been a second and killer goal. Bonds now, letting one go. And again they looked and waited, and Robson was there very quickly. A nice little chip towards Billy Bonds, and he scored a second one. 2-0 Billy Bonds, and Crystal Palace defence was in ruins as Robson chipped that little ball across, and Bonds was there with his head. Robson now for West Ham. Fair bit of space there, but he took it away from it. But he's found Bonds. Taylor doggedly trying to stay with Billy Bonds. Bonds a little cross, and Clyde Best the goal. Number 3, Clyde Best. Jackson is, I suppose, furious with the defence around him.
Unquestionably the highlight of that season has to be the Marathon League Cup semi-final with Stoke City, which went to 4 games. I think the final game at Old Trafford was probably the pick of the bunch, was it not?
Yeah, I think probably 4 of the best games I've ever sort of been involved in for excitement and the quality of football. I mean, there were 4 great games, and probably, as I say, it was around my prime, so I've got fond memories of them really, because it was probably my best football around that time. But you know, they were up and down. We won 2-1 at Stoke. We got a 2-1 lead in the semi-final away from home over a 2-leg thing, so you felt you'd done a lot of the hard work. And then we had a full house down at Upton Park, and Stoke went in, got back level, and then Hursty missed a penalty, and back with Banks's save, you know, obviously it was one of the greatest saves you'll ever see.
And I can tell you that there are 2 players in the West Ham side not daring to look. One of them is Tommy Taylor, one is John McDowell. It's now Hurst, he will not look. And now it's Hurst against Banks, and Banks has saved it miraculously, and the crowd are stunned and Stoke are delighted.
And then the replay at Hillsborough was probably one of the best 0-0 draws you'll ever likely to come across. And then we went to Old Trafford on a rainy night, and it was a fabulous game, you know, 3-2, back and forward. I think we took the lead, and Bobby Ferguson got injured, Moore had to go in goal. You know, everything happened in those 4 games. And
saved a penalty, in fact.
Yeah, moreover, yeah, that's right. And everything happened in those games, and it was a shame somebody had to lose, but it was us, and Stoke went on and won it.
Including a goal from you, by the way, in that game as well.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
I think, just the Old Trafford one. I went through the middle and hit a shot. I think it took a deflection and beat Gordon Banks. Yeah. But you know, they were great games, and I really enjoyed them.
Gary Redknapp takes the throw, back to McDowell. And there's the ball given away to Ritchie. And that's a penalty. McDowell absolutely lost his head. Bernard against Bobby Moore. It must be 100 to 1 against. And he saved it! And there's the rebound. And the linesman was standing with his flag up. And I think it's going to be taken again. Or will he allow it to stand? Now, what is the linesman going to say? Possibly that Moore moved before the ball was kicked. It's a goal. Bonds. And still going. And he's found space. And it's deflected in. Bonds. Bonds wins it. Best is waiting in the middle. And it's there by Brookie. Ritchie, who really has played extremely well the way he's taken and turned this ball tonight. Conroy for Easton. And now Dobing. He's found the net. Bernard. Green off through the middle. And overlapping here on the right is Marsh. Come out to Conroy. Stoke City, the side who have never won a major championship, a major trophy of any sort, are in with a chance. They now go to Wembley to play Chelsea in the final of the Football League Cup.
Is that probably one of the blackest moments when you lose a semi-final? You're so close to the big one, and
I think at the time then I was a little bit younger, and I think I might have sort of been very disappointed. There might have even been a tear in it, but that was the last time I cried after a football. I might have had a tear or something, but that was the last time. If I did that night, then I've never done it since, because I think it's not that important. It's throughout your career you'll have ups and you'll have downs, and you'll have your luck and it'll go against you. And I tend to take it all with a little pinch of salt. Probably in those days I got a little bit more uptight, but I think as you go through your career, you'll have your bits of luck and it'll go against you. Over the course of a season, it balances out.
You say that in your early days you were a bad loser.
I still don't like losing now. I've never liked losing football matches. I mean, I think it's it's how you lose them. I think if you lose it, it's when you're playing, it's about how you lose. I mean, you can lose a game 2-1 and still play well and keep battling to the end, or you can get beat 4-0, don't try a leg, get slaughtered, and then say, well, we lost very badly. So I think it's about how you lose as much as how you win, sort of thing. And now I'm a manager. I think you have to, when you get beat, it's how you take it. You have to take being beat. I don't like it, but I think you have to take it graciously.
Mm-hmm. In the league, there were some classic confrontations with Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur. It must have been a great thrill to play against the likes of Bobby Charlton, George Best and Dennis Law. And in fact, we have some good footage of you against Best on New Year's Day in 1972. It was a 3-0 home win for the Hammers, with goals from Best, Clyde variety, Hurst and Robson. Do you recall that game?
No, I don't. But I'm glad you got that footage of us winning 3-0, because there's a lot of footage of Georgie Best turning me inside out. So, no, I mean, I think the difference now, there were some great players around then. I mean, every side had half a dozen really top quality players. But I think the difference was they were allowed to maybe play a little bit and express themselves a little bit then. I think nowadays you've still got a lot of good players about, but it's a lot harder to perform your skills. The game's quicker. it's much harder, it's condensed more into a certain area of the field, and your skills are put under a lot more pressure, whereas I think in my early days when I came to West Ham there was a lot more space about on the park. But you did have a lot of great players about then. I mean, I think you go through all the sides. Man City had some great players, you know, Bells, Lee, Summerby's. Man United, Tottenham, they all had half a dozen what you call really quality players, which is probably maybe not the same now.
Best. But Bonds will not give up. And still he won't give up. And even now he won't give up. Best. Faced by McDowell and Bonds, and still he gets it across there, and Bobby Moore under a lot of pressure with Law at very close quarters. Moore pushing that one behind for the corner. Law just behind Moore there was so close to him. West Ham still having by far the better of it territorially, still not finding enough openings for their own liking. Hurst now finding Redknapp. Redknapp across that goal, no, can someone poke that? Robson, yes! Brian Robson has done it! He squirmed that through. A lot of credit to Harry Redknapp though. Tommy Taylor. And away, Hurst off in chase again versus Edwards. Edwards for the moment lost it. Hurst back to Clyde Best to hit one and a goal! There was a deflection, but it's a goal and it must go to Clyde Best. Morgan now in that famous old position of his down the right wing. Crossed again there. Law, a tremendous jackknife! What a magnificent overhead kick by Dennis Law. And that couldn't have been more than 6 inches over that West Ham bar. Tony Dunn right up. Leaving it for Willie Morgan. Noticeable now that Morgan is deserting the midfield more and more to take up attacking positions. There's the ball to George Best. A back heeler there for Kidd. Over the bar again. And again Best is furious with Kidd. The virtuosity of this man Best has twice opened up the way for Brian Kidd in the last couple of minutes. It's with McDowell. And that really was a nothing. But was that handball? It was handball by Gowling. And it's going to be a penalty for West Ham. And I wonder where Jeff Hurst will place this one, remembering how his penalty was saved. His penalty was saved by Banks the last time here. And now it's Hurst against Alex Stepney. And he made no mistake. 3-0 to West Ham. Jeff Hurst the penalty. And poor Alex Stepney from behind his goal there. He hardly could move.
Would Best be the most tricky winger you've ever come up against?
Oh yeah, I mean he was one of the greatest players you'll ever come across. I mean he was a fabulous little player. I mean you couldn't kick him off a ball. You couldn't, you know, he was brave, he was strong, great ability, 2 feet, tremendous. Bobby Charlton I've always admired Bobby Charlton. You know, I thought he was a great player, great acceleration, powerful shot, great pass with the ball, whether it was a 5-yard pass or a 40-yard ball. You know, there was a lot of tremendous players around that time. I think it was an exciting time to be playing football then. I think, you know, the 70s and 60s was a very exciting time to be playing football.
Seemed to be more fun in the game then.
I think so, yeah. I think so. I think there was a lot more fun in the game then, yeah. I think so, from players and the supporters.
Well, the home fans obviously loved your competitive edge, and I think that's what endeared you to their hearts right away. But this could often upset opposing supporters, couldn't it? And we've got a clip here of you absolutely clattering John Pratt in a game against Spurs at Upton Park. You had a hard man image. Is that the way you saw yourself? Yeah,
I think I was. I got into trouble with referees early on, well, late on as well. But you know, I've always been a sort of player. I love to be involved. I love to give 100%, and probably it was over enthusiasm more than anything. I don't think I was ever a dirty player. I don't think I've ever gone over the top intentionally to anybody in my life. I've always tried to win the ball. But there have been times I've got too involved and got into trouble with referees and opposing managers. But I've always tried to do the best for the team. So I've had criticism from other managers, but it's water off a duck's back really. It doesn't really bother me because I know I'm trying to do the best for my side.
Bill, when you're embroiled in the passion of a big match, how aware are you of the crowd and everything else around? Does it get locked out?
No, I don't think so. I think you take all that in. I mean, I always loved that. I mean, there's nothing like a European night, or the bigger the night, the better. I enjoyed it. You know, the more the atmosphere, the better. I think you go through a brick wall when you get the crowd chanting your name, and you just go through a brick wall for them. Simple as that. That's the way I used to feel. You know, it gave me a lift, give me a boost, sort of thing. You know,
it's a stimulant.
Well, I think so, and I enjoyed it. You know.
We move into season 1972-73, which was another good campaign. The Hammers finished 6th with some sparkling football. Brian Pop Robson was now in the attack and got 2 very good goals against Manchester United, and 2 in a 3-1 win over the Blades, one from a cross by you.
Robson. Tyler. Played first time and played brilliantly there for Brooking. Well, they talk about early balls and quickly played balls, and that was one played to perfection by this fella, Dudley Tyler, into the path of Brooking. Now Tyler then with the corner for West Ham. Another low one again. Bonds getting right down there, and Robson turning it in. Brian Robson, the second goal. Lampard. Holland, Lampard, turned again towards Brooking and over the head of Hockey, and turned on by Robson! He hardly got a touch to it, but that touch was enough.
Fabulous little player, Pop, you know, a great little professional, and he's another one, 110%. He'd play anywhere for you.
Sadler. Oh, and he hustled that back, and Clyde Best might get a chance yet. Best, in fact, had he not turned his back on it, might well have had another chance. And Sadler was totally unaware that Best was in such a dangerous position. Turned on superbly for Robson, and a goal! Oh, a wonderful goal for West Ham! What a superb goal! Brooking, who made it with that lovely pass on for Robson, and Robson who ran into the best possible position to turn it past Stepney. West Ham, who've had so much more of the game and the chances have come their way, but now for the second time find themselves behind. Robson hitting a goal! Oh, Robson! 2 goals in a little more than a minute, and Brian Robson makes it 2-2.
Must give a team a great lift when you know you've got somebody up front that can actually put the ball away.
Well, Pop would always, if he wasn't scoring 25, 30 goals, that was disappointing for him, you know, and like you say, when you've got somebody doing that on your side, it does help a hell of a lot.
Now, he also played with Greavesy, as you say, but he was coming more to the end of his career.
I think when Jim came, although the first game he scored 2 goals at Man City when we won 5-1, so he still had that old Greaves magic about him, you know, he still knew where the net was, but obviously Jim's career was, I never played with him at his peak. I mean, I saw a lot of him on the television and played against him a few times, and you know, once again, as I say, you know, a special little player. We were talking about the Bests and Charltons around that time. Well, Greavesy, you know, was in that category, you know, a great little player. But when he came to our club, I think Jim was past his best, and I never saw the best of him.
You said earlier that the reputations of these players when you were up against them didn't worry you at all.
No, I've never been one for, it's like I said, when I was a kid I never went around getting autographs for players and that, and I've never sort of been one to worrying about reputations. If anything, the bigger the name, the better I used to like playing against him, really. But you always respected him. I respected a 4th division player as much as I did George Best, because if you didn't, then you'd be left with egg on your face, sort of thing. You know, they could always, if you didn't go about it right, you'd be in trouble. So you know, I just tended to treat them with the same respect as everybody. But I'm never worried about reputations or things like that.
In fact, teams from lower divisions caused a few embarrassments at time, and in 73-74, which was a very disappointing campaign anyway, KO'd by Hereford in the third round of the FA Cup.
Yeah, we'd had this. I mean, before I came, this vulnerability against clubs from lower divisions, and it stayed with us for a long time. I mean, every side does come unstuck in these situations, but we had a very bad habit of doing that against quite often. You know, I remember Stockport put us out of one of the cups, and Mansfield, Hereford, went to Hull City when they were a second division side, and so we had a long history of that. But I think over the years we started to rectify that, and it didn't happen quite as much as it used to us.
What do you think the fault was in those days? Because I mean, you had so many good players.
Well, it's like I was saying to you early on, we had so many good players, but we could lose to the average sides and beat the best. I mean, that was West Ham for you. They were very inconsistent. Very inconsistent.
Because of this record, did you begin to get a mental block?
No, I don't think
before
you
you took on teams
as a
like
player.
that.
No, I don't think it happens. I mean, some of them were played. I remember going out of Middlesbrough. It was played on a frozen pitch, and the Hereford thing was played in a mud heap. You get results like that. I mean, nowadays you still get results like that. I mean, you'll always get results like that around January, February, and the ground's a bit iffy. But that's the FA Cup. I mean, if you didn't get those sort of results and all 20 sides got through, the first division sides got through, the FA Cup wouldn't be the FA Cup. So, thank God you do get those kind of results, because that makes the FA Cup what it is. But I think I don't think we're as bad as we used to be. We've rectified that, and that's not been just recently. It's been over a period of time. I don't think we've suffered so much. We'll have our odd reverse, but like Torquay last year.
Yeah.
But
that was under.
I don't think it's happened as much as it normally is.
Well, in this season we're talking about 73-74, only 7 wins at home in the league. One of them against Manchester City, which was by 2-1, when you were somewhat unfairly booked, and Bobby Gold nearly scored from one of your headers.
Best versus Boo. Looked as though Best was being wrestled by Boo. Free kick, not taken from the right place, or at least Bonds was brought back so that it could be taken from the right place. Moore flicking it forward again, and Billy Bonds had done him, and Bobby Gould, furious with himself, but he made enormous strides there. A skillfully taken free kick there by Bobby Moore, and Bonds getting in when the City least expected it. Nodded across the goal, and Gould couldn't quite get the touch. Hit low again, nodded back once more, and Best, and he almost got that in from a really ridiculous angle there. Best almost found a way through, and now it's Lehman going full pelt the other way. Bonds will claim that he made contact with that ball, but the referee thought otherwise and has given the free kick. Bonds, I think, is arguing with the referee and might well get his name taken. It looks as though, although we can't see the name actually going in the book, I think that's what it looks like.
Bobby, great character. I mean, he's great to have in the dressing room. Terrific professional. But probably the strength of Bob was in the dressing room. I mean, he was always keep people on their toes. Always, there was never any doubt you'd go out with a good attitude with Bobby in the dressing room, because he'd be geeing people up and winding people up and always joking. And he was always great to have around in the dressing room. I think, and obviously he was a very experienced professional when he went out on the field, and a good professional. And now he's carrying that over into management now.
There's been some good players in the dressing room, hasn't there, over the years? I mean, there was Psycho and people like that.
Well, Crossy was in the same sort of mould as Bobby, same type of player, good professional, knew what he was doing out on the field, very experienced, cagey type of player, and I think David improved when he came to the club as a player as well. I think he'd be the first to admit that. I think he came as an aggressive, big type of striker, but I think he left with a fair bit of touch. Crossy, he scored a lot of goals for us, and I think probably played his best football of his career at our place, and he ended up a very good player.
In January 1974, Bobby Moore's Upton Park career came to an end, and you became the captain. leading by example with 13 goals that season, in fact, which was probably one of the best that you had in the league.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah, leading goal scorer that year, yeah.
One of them a great volley against Coventry City, against whom you also scored from the penalty spot. Do you remember that?
Yeah, no, all I remember about that game, I remember that, you know, I'd scored, I think, a hat-trick against Chelsea that year as well, and really that day I should have scored a second one. I should have got a hat-trick against Coventry because I missed an absolute sitter from underneath the bar somewhere, and I think that's what I remember about that. That should have been the second hat-trick of my career, and I was joked about it.
Longer throw that time, lower trajectory. Now will that come through? No, is it a penalty? Yes! The penalty there to West Ham, given against Will Smith for handball. Billy Bonds against Bill Glazier, and he's got it! Sending Glazier the wrong way. An excellent penalty there, well taken by Billy Bonds, and that makes Billy Bonds 6 goals now in the last 4 games and 27 minutes. Holland, here's the cross again, but only Robson is in there. Nodded away for Billy Bonds. Oh, what a goal! Billy Bonds has done it again! What a tremendous goal by Billy Bonds! A tremendous skipper for West Ham now, and a tremendous goal scorer too. 2 in this game, and 7 now in the last 5 games. The last seconds of the game now. Can West Ham yet save it? There's Brooking going down once more. Craven going across. He's gone past Craven now. Can Brooking toss this one in? Billy Bonds, oh, and he missed the header. Well, that will infuriate Billy Bonds. Brooking did so well, and Bonds, if anything, had not a too difficult a header, but he screwed it wide, and that could be the decisive moment.
Of course, the man of the moment down in your part of the world seems to be Billy Bonds. He's taken over as, he really has done an inspirational job there since Bobby Moore went as skipper, hasn't he?
Well, yes, Billy's reacted very well to the situation, and he's been a great player all season. What he's doing at the moment now, of course, is scoring goals, and that's a tremendous bonus. But he does everything right. He works in defence, he works in midfield, and now if he's scoring goals as well, he's our leading goal scorer at the moment.
He's going to enjoy this as well.
Here we see this one at the end, the second goal coming to us. And Billy Bonds hits the loose ball with his, what we call his swinger, his left foot, and it really does hit the back of the net. The Coventry reaction to this was felt that if the full-back had let the ball run, there was no danger, but then again, that's human error. Trevor goes wide here in the last minute of the game. Brian Robson's going in there. Look at that anticipation. But Trevor looks up and floats the ball into the centre, and who's there but Billy Bonds? And Billy, unfortunately, instead of just knocking down left or right to Glazier, wants to tend to glance it in without really power, and it goes wide. Billy was most apologetic because he said it's probably the easiest goal he's missed in all the goals he's scored of late. The interesting thing again to notice there was Clyde Best and Graham Padden are also there on hand, anticipating this cross. Unfortunately, it would have been a great thing for Billy, because I felt if anybody yesterday didn't deserve to be on the losing side, that was Billy Bonds. And if he could have got another double hat-trick like he did against Chelsea, it would have been a great occasion for him. And I felt sorry for him that he did miss that.
I'd like to now talk about your role as the captain, because you came in and took over as captain. We just mentioned about the clowns in the dressing room who helped ease the tension. What did you see your role as in the dressing room before a game?
Well, I just went around geeing people up and just having a quiet word with people. I mean, I think as a skipper, it's like as a manager, you know the ones you can bully, and you know the ones you've got to sort of whisper in their ear and just say, you know, come on, keep it going. So yeah, I mean, basically John would do all that, or Ron in the dressing room. But I think my work began when I went out on the field, really, because you take over from the manager, if you like, you know, when you're out on that field. I enjoyed the captaincy because it was a bit more responsibility, but I think I'd always done a lot of chatting and a lot of talking, because I think that helped my game. You know, it kept me involved, and so I was always like that even before I became captain. So that was just a natural thing to do when I became captain. because as I say, if I was quiet, then I probably wasn't getting as involved as I should have done.
There was also changes behind the scenes, with John Lyall now assuming control of the team and Ron Greenwood moving upstairs, so to speak. How different was the preparation that John gave you in the dressing room before a game to that of
No, you didn't even realise John had taken over in a way. You know, it was just a carry on from Ron, really. I mean, both tremendous managers. I mean, under both of them, Ron and John, I think I became a better player. A lot of people might not think so, but I think I became a better player. And they're both very good coaches. They both know the game well, you know, inside out. Both very honest people, very honest men, and I enjoy working with both of them. But I think John was always being groomed by Ron to take over, so really it was just a nice sort of nice way in. You know, John just came in and just everything just kept going as it was, really.
Well, that might be anybody's. In the end, it's Brookings for Bonds. He's in a bit of trouble too, being harassed there by Farley. Coleman now look how Brookings got in behind these defenders once again. Was that handball? It was a penalty! Handball by Hibbett. And a penalty to West Ham. And Billy Bonds now, with the penalty for West Ham against Phil Parkes. An enormous goalkeeper who to Bonds must seem to fill that goal now. There of Phil Parkes, and Billy Bonds goes into double figures, his 10th goal of the season.
Well, back to Billy Bonds, and you contributed 9 more goals in the following campaign, one in a 5-2 win over Wolves, but the FA Cup winning run provided you with your first major prize.
Yeah, I mean, I thought when we lost that semi-final against Stoke, you know, obviously you think, well, you're never going to get to Wembley. But probably all my success came much later on in my career, sort of thing. You know, I mean, lots of people when they get to around the 30 age, 28, 29, 30, you're sort of thinking, well, what am I going to do when I quit? But a lot of my success came medal-wise, if you like, and cups. I still enjoy what I did, but medal-wise and cup-wise, it all came later on in my career, really. And obviously, it was lovely getting to Wembley, because you thought, well, you know, after the Stoke thing, I didn't think I was ever going to get there.
The first semi-final at Villa Park against Ipswich was rather a disappointment, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a bad game, very nervy type game, not many chances, and you know, non-event really. And really the second game wasn't a great game, but the fact that we won 2-1 though, so that's all we were really worried about. You know, we were on our way to Wembley.
Inevitably, it seems that in a replay of a match like that, the players are always more free, more easy.
Yeah, I think because you've been through it, and you know, you are a little bit more relaxed in the return. Obviously, it's played of a night time under floodlights, and probably not so much. You haven't got the hype that you had on leading up to it, because you have the press and everything. Haven't got that much time to sort of do too much on it. So you know, there is a little bit of less tension about them. Yeah. But obviously, there's still a big prize. You're still playing for Wembley.
That's right. Well, it was your first Wembley final, but the Hammers lost 5 of the last 6 games in the league that season. Was this due to the pending appointment with Fulham at Wembley, or?
To be quite honest, I mean, I had bad memories of the final. I mean, it was great getting to Wembley, but for me personally, I'd got a groin injury, a very bad groin injury, and all season I've been playing with a groin injury, and I think I missed a few games that year, especially the Wolves were running. I'd also got a very bad cut knee before the semi-final as well against Burnley. So you know, when I played at Wembley, I wasn't fully fit, so really that helped. I mean, I didn't really enjoy. You enjoy Wembley, but I didn't enjoy that game as much as I did the Arsenal, and that probably helped a little bit because I wasn't fully fit, and I didn't feel I had that freedom to play as if I wanted, the way I wanted to. So I didn't plan a lot of those games, towards the end.
Is there a feeling in a situation like that, your very first big game at Wembley, where you feel that things aren't real? Everything seems in a bit of a haze. You go through the motions, but you don't seem to be grasping things.
No, I think it passes you by very quickly. On the day, you wake up in the morning in the hotel, and then you go out and play, and then you have your reception later, and that's what I said to you. It does pass you by very quickly. I think the first time, you take it all for granted a little bit, if you like, and you don't take it in properly. But the second time, I was determined to do that.
Well, this particular game against Fulham, of course, Bobby Moore was now leading Fulham, so that obviously added a little bit of spice to the occasion.
I think we were all just delighted for Moore. I mean, he'd left our club, and to turn up with Fulham at a cup final, I thought, we were all just delighted for him. Alan Mullery as well was in the side as well, so I think, you say spice, I mean, we were just all pleased for Moore, really, that he'd got to another cup final.
Well, you say you don't remember too much of that brilliant afternoon, but no doubt you recall the goals.
Yeah, I think
from Alan Taylor.
The goalkeeper probably, was at fault with the goals. I mean, a couple bounced back off him. But as I say, it was a poor game. But Alan Taylor, I mean, he'd had a marvellous. It was unbelievable what he'd done that season. I mean, he scored 2 at Arsenal in the quarter-final. I mean, and nobody fancied us there at Arsenal that day. I mean, Arsenal were buzzing that year. And he scored 2 there, and then obviously 2 in the semi and 2 in the final. So it was like boys' own stuff, really. It was unbelievable what he did.
Now it's Jimmy Conway for Fulham. As Alan was saying, just lacking this little killer instinct. That's all they're lacking at the moment. Otherwise, as he said, West Ham are there for the taking. But still 0-0. And maybe it'll be West Ham who do the taking as Holland takes it up now, down the left for them. Billy Jennings screaming for the ball, hitting it first time. Miller gets it. Taylor turns it back. Yes! Alan Taylor! 1-0 to West Ham against the run of the play. The side that have been on the receiving end for all the first half and a good percentage of the second make the breakthrough. Billy Bonds now for West Ham. Billy Jennings. Played for Padden. Lampard coming up quickly, letting one really wrap there with his left foot. Holland. Oh, what a good ball by Holland there for Padden. And hit well by Padden, number 2. And he's done it again. Alan Taylor.
Well, 1975-76 began where the previous season had ended, at Wembley, in the Charity Shield against Derby County. But you weren't able to take your place in the team, still troubled by injury.
Yeah, I'd had that groin operation. After the cup final, I went straight into hospital and had the groin operation. And I was still recuperating at home when they played in that game.
That was your first serious injury, in fact, wasn't it? Yeah. I mean, it looked like it might finish me. I was that worried that it might be the end for me. So really, I've got to thank Mr. Roper for that, the bloke who did the surgeon who did the operation, because he gave me another 10-11 years, or even longer. How did you handle that situation at the time? Did you retreat into a shell?
No, I just accepted it. I remember coming back from the hospital one day when I'd been up after the operation and sort of, seen the doctor, and he said, we'll have to wait and see how it goes. And I was saying to Lynn, my wife, what do you think we ought to do? We were talking about the savings we got and what we might be able to put them into as little business or something to do something. I mean, that's how bad it was. That's how I honestly thought I was going to finish them. But as I say, thanks to Mr. Roper, I went on for a few more years.
You've always been a good trainer, Bill. I mean, you've always put a lot into training. Yeah. People say you're very fit, but I mean, obviously you've worked at that.
Yeah.
But to come back on the lonely road after a long injury, did you find that difficult, training by yourself?
Yeah, but I'm very determined bloke, and I mean, if it had to be done, it had to be done, and I'd do that. It was never a problem. I mean, I love training. It was never a chore to me. A lot of people, I think, would find that the hard work of, like you say, doing it all on your own, up the pre-season and gymnasium, they find it hard work, but I found that enjoyable. I've always found training enjoyable, so that helped a little bit, I think, to do that.
Well, as you say, the injury curtailed your performances that season, just 17 league appearances in fact, but Europe provided a great stimulant, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was the first time I'd had a chance to play in Europe, and it's still one of the fondest memories of my career, those European nights down at Upton Park. They were marvellous nights, some great games, and it was nice to go and see different countries, with the European thing. I've been to Russia, Holland, Romania, we've been all over the flipping shop, Finland. So it was nice to sort of go and see different countries. It broke up the season as well. The league stuff. You'd have a little week, couple of days away in a different country, and come back and play your league game. So that was a marvellous experience.
Well, you scored against Den Haag, of course, in the second leg of the third round match.
Yeah.
And then there was Eintracht Frankfurt.
Brooklyn had some marvellous games, but I think that night probably was the greatest game I've seen him play. I mean, I thought he was tremendous that night, fantastic, and the atmosphere down there was unbelievable.
We'll go to November 1977 now, Bill. A 3-3 draw with West Bromwich Albion really had shattering repercussions for you. You were in the England squad. Ron Greenwood was at Upton Park to run his eye over you, and you came off with an injury which actually prevented you from joining the squad.
And here's the Albion's Brian Robson with the throw for the visitors. Well, the feet were high there on Billy Bonds, and I think he got a little push in the face to finish it all off. Alistair Robertson is being talked to by the referee, and the card is coming out, I think. It's going to be a yellow card for Alistair Robertson.
I think I joined the squad, that one.
You did?
Yeah, I think I did. Was that the Italian game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I joined the squad, but I played a terrible game. I think that might have put Ron off of putting me in the side, I'm not sure. But I was sub for that England game. I sat on the bench, I was one of the subs. England won the game 2-0. As I say, I didn't play too well. I felt a little bit nervy because I knew Ron was up there watching me, and I must admit a little bit of tension did creep into my game that day, and I didn't have a good game, and whether that put Ron off of playing me, I don't know, because everybody was saying I was going to play, but I ended up on the subs bench and never got on. So but it was lovely to be involved in an England squad at that age of my career.
Many fans would be surprised to hear that you were nervous.
I think it was just the fact that you play all season, and then you think, well, I knew Ron was up there watching, and you wanted to do well, you wanted to play well, and not nervous, but a little bit. Maybe I was doing things that I wouldn't have normally done in a game to try and impress. Maybe it wasn't nerves, but maybe I was doing things that normally I wouldn't do in a game. And I played centre half that day, and we gave away 3 goals, so I couldn't have played that.
Well, I know Ron Greenwood selected you, was definitely going to play you against Brazil when Alvin Martin made his England debut at Wembley, and of course injury precluded you from that game. And really this has been the Achilles heel of your career, hasn't it? The fact that you never got a full England cap. You were capped by England at under 23 level.
Yeah, no, I was involved in 3 squads. The Italian game where I was substitute, and I got called up for the German. There was a game in Germany, and I got injured at Everton. Couldn't go to join that squad. And then the last one was I was called up for the Brazil game, and Ron said, you'll be playing with Alvin at centre back. He was going to play the 2 of us together. And we went to Sheffield Wednesday in the midweek, and Phil came out and caught me in the ribs. He came out for a ball, give me. I might not give me a shout, I don't remember now. And I got stuck in between him and the ball, and I broke a couple of ribs. I always remember I went down the local park. Ron phoned me up and asked how I was, and I said, well, I'm just going to go down and have a little go. And I went down a little field around the back of where I live and had a run, and just, I don't know whether you've ever had a broken rib, but you can't breathe with it. And I started to run, and just it was useless. So I phoned Ron up and said, sorry Ron, I won't be able to make the squad. And he went, bad luck, unlucky. That was my last chance, really.
Is that the biggest disappointment of your career?
Well, I think I'm saying to you about, you know, when you get to semi-finals, what will be, and that, and it wasn't meant to be. I was injured twice, and it wasn't meant to be. It was disappointing, but I think if anything, I'd love to. I've always said it. I think my dad was more disappointed than me that I never got an international cap. I think when you look back, it would have been nice to sort of say, well, I did make the England team. I would love to have got it for him, really. But as I say, it wasn't meant to be. Maybe playing as long as I did compensate for that.
Another throw for West Ham. And in fact, it's Devonshire there by the byline. The cross coming in, and they had a lot of trouble getting that away. And Bonds turning it back in there. Hardwick with a save, but the flag was up for offside. And the referee, in fact, is ignoring that. It was a good, well-struck shot by Billy Bonds there through a crowd of players. Now it's McDowell for West Ham. Now to go a long way. Can he do something with it? Well, here's Devonshire quickly on that one. Devonshire all the way through, and a goal. Beautifully placed. West Ham's goal with 20 minutes gone. A superb piece of cool thinking by Alan Devonshire, and the joy that says it all. At the moment, Brownlee bringing it forward for Newcastle. Cut out by Brush. Played on again by Robson for Brooking. Brooking playing it in for Robson. Oh my word, a beautiful goal. Robson against his old club, but a goal of classic proportions. Brooking, it's a good cross too. Fisted away though. Lampard turning it back, deflected in. Lampard will claim it, number 3. And Hardwick, no chance at all with that. And Holland battling away there. Brooking with the header again, skillfully played for Holland. Robson's right in there, Holland's going on. Forced a little wider than he wanted to go. Brush coming up in support of him. And McDowell in there! Number 4! Well, the goals are here for the taking this afternoon. And McDowell took that one superbly to the delight of the young West Ham fans. Pike getting in there, and Bird putting some of the West Ham patrons in danger with that hefty clearance into the stand. A throw for West Ham. Jeff Pike with it. Devonshire. Pike again. And little fall for McDowell. Hit well. Oh, a beautiful goal by McDowell. Oh, that really is getting a goal out of nothing. Number 5 and the second for John McDowell. All this season he hasn't scored for the first team, and now 2 in this one game, and the 5th for West Ham. Walker with the corner. Lampard's header, and Devonshire helping it on to Holland. Alan Devonshire again. Cross has gone forward. Bonds has made a really surging run. Onside for Pat Holland. Bonds waiting in the middle. Oh, and he missed, but what a goal that would have been, and how a man who's run 50 yards in the way that Billy Bonds did, how he deserved it. The look of disappointment there.
But for me, Billy Bonds was again the chief inspiration for West Ham yesterday. It's almost as though he's waging a massive personal campaign to shove that club back into the First Division. And this instance, a perfect example. There he is, Arrow, just outside his own 6-yard area as this ball is played out to the right. Just watch Billy Bonds move now. You'll see him along the top of the picture there, right in the centre. Now he's making his run as Devonshire takes it up, and a nice little flick pass here for Holland. A beautiful ball played here by Holland in first time. And who's there? Billy Bonds. Now, the West Ham pitch, we found out, is 110 yards long. We reckon that Billy must have covered something like 90 yards there, and we timed it as just over 12 seconds. A really marvellous piece of play, and one really that deserved a goal there.
West Ham United are in the 2nd Division. And it proved rather harder to get out than expected, didn't it? Finishing 5th despite a 5-0 victory over Newcastle. And then in 79-80, promotion again eludes the Hammers. But there is the bonus, of course, of that FA Cup final.
Yeah, it was never easy. I mean, it was a tough league, and we found it hard to get out of. But obviously, we got involved in the cup in that 2nd year.
Just Paul Allen staying back now to look after John Ward. Stewart takes this corner again for West Ham. In towards the near post there. Pike is there trying it overhead, and it's in the net with Billy Bonds. 1-1. And Brooking with the corner now. The lines are not happy where the ball is not inside the quadrant, so that's fair enough. Now Brooking with the West Ham corner. Hit high towards Alvin Martin. That looked like a handball and a penalty given. My impression was it was McNaught, and Ray Stewart, the number 4, what a task he's got. And John Lyle here just wanting to see that ball in the back of the net. And the man who's got to put it there for West Ham is Ray Stewart. I tell you, Jeff Fike's not looking for one, and neither is Alvin Martin, neither is Paul Brush. So we have some of the West Ham players not looking. It's Ray Stewart, and he scored!
We had a good side then. I mean, we had a lot of good players then, and as you say, we got to the final against Arsenal. I mean, nobody fancied us, like I said to you before, but I think we knew in the back of our minds that we had good players, and if we went there and played as well as we could, then we'd have a chance, because we did have a lot of quality in the side then.
Probably the semi-final replay with Everton at Ellen Road was the nail-biting classic that everybody wanted to see, and illness ruled out Alvin Martin for that game, so the defence had to be reshuffled, didn't it?
Yeah, Ray Stewart came in and played alongside me, and Ray had a tremendous game in the return at Leeds at Ellen Road. Two good semi-finals. You know, you're talking about the Ipswich semi-finals weren't particularly good, but these were good ones, and the replay was a tremendous game. With Frank, you know, getting the winner, which obviously he'll always remember, and his little jig round the corner flag. But you know, as I say, we had a lot of very good players in. You know, you had Brooking and you had Devonshire. I mean, 2 world-class players, and other good players within that side. So you know, we were always liable to beat first division sides, and even though we were a second division side.
There's young Paul Allen just going through there, the 17-year-old. The wall of noise has hit him now. Brooking and Devonshire at the back for West Ham, and 2 old buddies there. They played against each other. John Lyle and Terry Neal. Have you ever seen managers more relaxed? Sunderland. And now West Ham forward again with Brooking. A lever flick there for Cross, and in fact it comes through to Pearson. And here's Devonshire. West Ham really carrying the fight now to the favourites Arsenal as Devonshire goes past Talbot. The cross there that Jennings couldn't get. Oh, and Cross almost got it in there, and Pearson has! Well, the ball in the back of the net from Pearson's shot. The Duchess of Kent, the Hammers have done it again.
Well, August 1980, and this time you're able to participate in the Charity Shield opener against champions Liverpool at Wembley. Any recollections of that game?
Not a lot, no. I mean, the Charity Shield isn't as special as an FA Cup, but once again it was a chance to go and play at Wembley, and which is, you know, it's always nice to go, no matter what the occasion. You know, I enjoyed it again. It was always enjoyable to play there.
You missed just 1 game in the Second Division Championship season of 80-81 and play in another Wembley final, the League Cup against Liverpool, which went to replay at Villa Park. So that was probably one of the most exciting times.
Yes, like I said, I mean, a lot of all the things that were very successful after the age of 30 sort of thing, or 28 onwards. All the cups and the leagues all came in, and I mean, they were great times then, because obviously winning the championship is always a special thing. Obviously, you've been consistent throughout the year and proved that you're the best team in your league, which we were that year. And that was the added bonus, a League Cup as well. So I mean, it was a very successful time for the club.
81-82 and doing well in Division 1, but then hepatitis floors you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a horrible thing. I mean, I've never had an illness like it. I still don't know how I got it, but I remember playing against Notts Forest down the ground, and I was against big Justin Fashion, who was playing for Forest at the time. And all I remember about the game, I think we lost it 2-1, but he was knocking me around like a little piece of cotton wool. You know, I just couldn't stand on my feet. Every time he touched me, I was falling over. And John came into me after the game. He said, "You okay?" You know, he said, "You just don't look yourself." He said, I said, "No, I feel terrible." I said, "I can't believe how bad I feel." I said, "I've never felt like it in my life." And I went along to some tests, and I had this hepatitis. It laid me out for about 6 weeks. But apparently, if I'd have known then what I know now, I mean, a lot of people, they don't recover from it. It can be a very dangerous thing, but I got over it in 6 weeks and was back playing again. But it wasn't a very nice thing. And as I say, I remember the game vividly because he was just knocking me about all over the place. I just couldn't. I had no strength at all.
You didn't get back into the side until April, when you came on as a substitute against Luton Town. And what a marvellous reception the fans gave you.
Yeah, well, the fans have always been good to me. You know, they've always had a good rapport with them. And as I say, they've always given me great encouragement throughout my career. And I mean, that's just that when you've been out for that type of thing, it helps you to get back into the swing of things. But they've always been great to me, and they've always given me every encouragement.
You scored a vital goal, Bill, and sparked a 5-1 win over Stoke City, a game in which you scored twice. That must have helped revitalise you.
Yeah, I enjoyed that game. It was in the mud. I remember it was, water all over the place. It was a little bit of a farce, really, but I think it was an important result for us. I'm not sure at the time, but I think we were in relegation trouble. I think
we were in relegation trouble, yeah.
And Stoke were one of those down the bottom, so it was an important result for us, and it was a nice way to get back in the swing of things again.
That's it. The following game went away and won 1-0 at Ipswich with Tony Cottee scoring.
Yeah.
And that
sealed it for us. Yeah, we stayed up. Yeah.
Now, you unfortunately missed out on the club's greatest league season, the one of 85-86, and probably felt that your First Division days were ended until you were needed to inspire another escape the following year. Yeah,
I was into a period now where I'd sort of I'd spoke to John and said, I feel it's time I sort of stepped down, and John said, well, just keep playing the reserves and just help the kids along as they come in. So I was happy to do that. The year I missed, the lads finished third. I mean, I missed through a toe injury. I'd had an infection in my small toe, and it looked like it would have to be amputated, and which I wouldn't have minded, because apparently you don't need your little toe. It's not an important thing. So it hurt so much I couldn't care less what they did with it, to be quite honest. But it did keep me out for all the season, and in the end I just lost a piece of it, and once again it was Mr. Roper who got it right for me. But I remember that year. I mean, it was probably one of the best years I've seen from a West Ham team, and that's going back all the years I've been here. I mean, that's with all the Moores, Hurst, Peters, and all the sides. I thought that year they played some tremendous football, very direct at the front early, a lot of good 1 and 2 touch football, strong at the back, and I was very impressed with them that year, and I would have loved to have been part of that side. But they did. It was a tremendous year for the club, and they did play some great football, the lads.
do you think then that the following season things should go so drastically downhill?
I don't know. I mean, maybe people stop remembering what made them a good side. I think that could be the answer. Maybe they just went away from what made them such a good side and stopped doing the things. It was a lot of hard work that year as well. I don't know. I mean, things never went well again after that. For that team gradually broke up. But it was they did have a great year, and they played some great football. As to what went wrong, I really don't know.
Now then, you ended your playing days at the Dell with a defeat. What went through your mind when you knew in your mind that this was going to be your last game?
I think by that time I'd had enough. I was very tired. I felt very tired. You've got to remember that's at the end of a long, hard season, and you think to yourself, my God, I'm glad this is the last game. But having said that, come next pre-season, when I told John I didn't want to, John had me in the office and said, I suppose you want to go on for another year. I said, no, to be quite honest, I don't, John. I said, I think I've had enough. But after saying that, then I took the youth team job. About 2 months later, I was ready to go again, and really, I wished I had maybe gone on another year. But I know it was the right decision, because I know I wasn't keeping up to the standards that I'd set myself. So, there's a time when they say a lot of people don't know when it's time to get out. I think I knew it was time to get out then, and so I don't regret it, because I was feeling very tired after games. Very tired.
Bill, you've just done a 2.5-hour training session, and then you've come out here and done another 20 minutes extra.
Yeah, well, the training session was for the lads. I was supposed to be taking it. I want to keep ticking over. I'm not just because I've stopped playing now. I'm not going to let myself go completely. I want to keep sort of fit. So it's not a question of just letting yourself go now you stop playing.
That's definite, is it? You're not going to play again?
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, I know I've said it before, but I think it's about time now. I concentrated more on the coaching now. John's given me charge of the youth team, and it's a good opportunity. So, I've enjoyed what I've done with the lads. I've had them for a week now, and I've enjoyed it. And I think it's something I've got to concentrate on now.
Do you think some of the enthusiasm of the youngsters will rub off on you, and you'll really be wanting to get back in?
No, I'm enthusiastic myself, so there's never been any problem with me. I can always generate my own enthusiasm, for the coaching job, and I hope it'll rub off on them, really.
I wasn't thinking from the coaching side. I was thinking of the enthusiasm to play again.
No, I think you just got to say that's it. It's your playing days are finished, sort of thing. I'll join in the five-a-sides and that, and still put a few on the deck maybe, and, get it out of my system that way. But I can still do that. There's always that sort of side of it. I'm not ever going to kick a ball again. You can be sure of that.
When you broke the record, the club record, was the match against Ipswich. At that time, you kind of envisaged that your career would go on for so long afterwards, could you?
No, I was telling you about the groin injury I got before the Fulham game. I don't know how old I was then, 28 was it, or something like that. I thought I was going to be finished then. So, looking back, even that far back, you wouldn't have thought. You just don't. I never thought it would go on as long as it did. But I used to just come back each pre-season, see how I felt, and I still felt good. I was still going up front in the runs, and you just keep plugging on and on and on, and that's the way I always just kept going.
You've got great natural stamina, haven't you? You always used to come in first in the cross-country runs.
I still enjoy training as well now. I've always, it's like I say, it's never been a chore to me running and training. I've always enjoyed it, and I think that's helped. me.
Football of the Year nomination in 1979. That was a great honour, although you didn't get the final vote.
I think the ones in were Billy Bremner and Colin Todd. I know there were two of Alan Hudson, I think was another one. So, it was nice to be involved in that with players of that calibre and with a chance to win Footballer of the Year. It's something I can always tell the grandchildren and my kids now, so that you were that good that you could be involved in that type of thing, so it's nice.
Well, one that came from outside the game, of course, was the MBE in the 1988 New Year's Honours List. I mean, that must have been a tremendous thrill for the whole family.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think I was more the thrill for the family. I mean, my daughters love going to Buckingham Palace, my wife and my mum and dad and my wife's family. And it was just a great thrill for everybody. I'm not just talking about my kids and wife, but for all my family, and very proud moment for them all. They all have to go into work, and my dad and Lynn's dad, and it's lovely for them to have something like that, for the family.
And the PFA Merit Award the same year.
Yeah, I got a silver salver for that, and that's at home now, and it was a nice moment, because obviously that's your own union and your own people sort of giving you that for services to football. So it was a good year with the MBA and that award. It was a nice way to end things.
Hammer of the Year 4 times, Bill, but I think the one that really epitomises your career was the one in 1987.
Yeah, well, you don't get it normally when you're with father. Was I 40 then? I'm not sure.
But the big prize, of course, goes to the great favourite, Billy Bonds. Hammer of the Year 1987, and of course it's his third success, and incredibly it was way back in 1971 when he first won the trophy.
Very proud moment for me, because I don't know when my last one was, but it was a long way back. And
you first won it in 71, and then in 74, and retained it again in 75.
It was that 12-year gap, so you don't normally expect it, but it's a very proud moment for me. I mean, it's something I always love getting. I mean, it showed you'd had a good year, and it was a very proud moment for me.
So you went into the youth team, as we said. You hung up your boots, did the youth team, and then of course we had the Lou Macari era here. You knew Macari, of course, from your playing days, and had some rare old battles with him.
So West Ham, the heart ripped out of their side through injuries, needing all the heart in the world to beat Manchester United, who goodness knows are struggling themselves here at Upton Park. Rather nasty challenge there, and a punch-up almost straight away between Bonds and Holton. Well, what a most undignified start there, and the referee will want to have a word with Holton within 15 seconds of the start. A clash between Billy Bonds and Jim Holton. Billy Bonds doing the work for two men there, and Graham going hard at him, but Bonds beating him off, and beating Willie Morgan off, and beating Young off as well, and then finding Coleman on the right. Now it's with Patton. Lutton won't get to that one. Well, perhaps Coleman will, trying to turn it through. And there were certainly plenty of West Ham men up there. It just needed a touch. Billy Bonds now with the throw. Buchan's header. George Graham away. Now Macari against two West Ham defenders, McGiven and Taylor. And McGiven finally winning it, and then losing it to Macari. Now this is a golden chance for Manchester United. Oh, and Keane and Macari miss it up. What a chance for Manchester United, and a misunderstanding there. Taylor's header. Again, a lot of distance with it. And in fact, falling to Houston for Manchester United. Macari. Oh, he turned inside Coleman beautifully there, Macari. And he's got Kidd waiting in the middle. Still with Macari. Back over his own head, and Day has got to come for it. Fought it well. Well, some nice play there by Lou Macari for Manchester United. Hoping to get on, no doubt. Good long throw there by Patton. Holton was really stretching for that one. Best jumping well for it. Billy Bonds. Oh, a goal by Bonds, and a beauty. What a superbly struck shot by Billy Bonds. So often there seems to be no justice in football, but if anyone deserves a goal on the West Ham side this afternoon, it's got to be Billy Bonds. He's done the work of two men for the whole of the first half.
No, I don't think we ever saw the best of Lou as a manager here. I think obviously the problems weren't here. It was what had happened before he came here, and I don't think we ever saw the best of Lou. I mean, his record was very good up until he came here, and I think he had probably things on his mind that from other things, from the Swindon thing, which couldn't allow him to do his job properly here. As I say, I don't think we saw the best of him, to be quite honest.
Well, his shock departure obviously thrust you into the hot seat, probably a little quicker than you anticipated.
Well, when John had left the club, then I did apply for the job. I thought I might as well sort of have a go and see what I could make a go of it. And I didn't get it, so I was quite happy to sort of go back in the youth and to work with Lou. Then obviously the events with Lou took place, and then the chairman asked me if I'd like the job, and obviously I've accepted it, and for good or bad, have a go at it.
What about the preparation for today's game?
In terms of...
Well, how did you prepare yourself mentally and decide what you were going to instruct the players to do?
I went shopping with the kids in the morning and Lynn, and I think I was tidying up the garden at 11 o'clock, and then came down here.
Obviously your family come into this, because you've always been a person as a player that used to shut himself off after the game, go home and retire from the scene altogether, and relax with the family. And I would think that family life is now even more important to you as a manager. Yeah,
I think my family's always been my strength. I think when you've had a problem, I think that's always been where I've gone back to, the family. I think that's where it's always been my strength for me. If I've had a problem, I've always sort of gone back home and had a chat about it, and it's the same as a manager. I think when you get problems, you've got your strength of your family backing you up, and I think that's very important. Obviously this job's different as a player, because as a player you've got a lot more time to spend with your family, and this job you don't. As a manager you don't. But I still find that I get the time that I want with my family, and that's still very important to me. If I didn't, then the job would go first. That would go.
It's very difficult to categorise people, but what do you think people will look back in time to come and say, this was the strength of Billy Bonds' management? What do you think the strong points will be?
That's like I said, I don't think you can say I've got a strength in management at the moment. I've had 1 year in it and I've done well. I hate these sort of things with players when they have one good season and the papers blow them up out of all proportion. They get they get some recognition international-wise, and then you don't see them after that. They're one-year wonders. I don't think it's any good, that. I think it's a good player or a great player does it over a period of time, and I think a good manager does that as well. I don't think I've got any strength. I've got strengths as a player, but I haven't got any strengths as a manager at the moment, because I don't think I've been tested at the moment. I've had a good year. Things have gone well, but we'll see how it goes in the future.
Well, finally, Bill, over the years, obviously you've made some great friendships, and I'd just like you to talk about one or two of the players who you've... Harry Redknapp, of course, who was your best man at your wedding.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a right character, isn't he?
Yeah, he's unbelievable. I mean, he was the first bloke I befriended when I come to the club. I mean, I remember sort of sitting in the bath after a testimonial game for Ken Brown, and I had to come off. This was my debut, really. It was a testimonial game. And Harry wandered up and I was laying in the bath, soaking, and he came up and just sort of said, how are you? I'm Harry Redknapp. And that was the first time I met Harry, sort of thing, and I had a great friendship with him for the rest of his time up until now. I don't see him as much or talk to him as much, but we were roommates then, and I had a great friendship with him. He was a terrific character, great character.
I mean, to an outsider, you seem to be quite opposite characters.
Well, we had lots of things in common. I mean, we both liked to gamble then. Harry liked to bet on the horses and dogs, and we had quite a bit in common. I mean, we owned a greyhound together for a couple of months, I think it was, before, and didn't last long, but we had lots in common. I mean, plenty to chat about.
Patsy Holland was another great character.
Pat, I mean, they're all wingers. These, Pat was a great 100% player. I mean, I always said with Pat, he always been one of my sides. He was a tremendous character, great trier. Never lived less than 110%, Pat. And always he's another one, a good man to have around your team and your dressing room. Always taking the mickey out of people, but you could always give him some stick back, you know. He didn't mind it that way. But as I say, another great character and a good little player as well. Good little player.
I believe you gave him some comfort too when he was left out of the FA Cup final side.
He was very upset, obviously. I mean, I don't know what it's like, but I can imagine it can't be very nice. You have to pick a team, and John had to leave somebody out, and Patsy was one of those left out. Obviously, he played in the Fulham game and missed the Arsenal one, and he was upset. But that's the character of Pat. He joined in all the celebrations afterwards, although he couldn't have felt too clever about it all. But that's the character of Pat. You know, he didn't try and spoil it for anybody, or he just joined in and made the most of it.
And then of course Trevor Brooking.
I mean, Trevor, once Harry left the club, Trev became a roommate, and I mean, we became very close friends. I mean, I always say to people, a great gentleman, a great ambassador for the sport. I mean, if anybody, you talk to kids about how you should go about playing football and how you should conduct yourself off the field, he's the one man you sort of put on a pedestal for him. Marvellous player, great talent. I mean, when I played in the midfield with him, if I could always give him a ball marked. I mean, it didn't matter if he was tightly marked, as long as I laid it up the right side, I could always give him it marked, because he'd just either feint, let the ball run, or do a little trick, work his body and fool the defender, and he'd be off with it. And that was always a get out for me. I could always give him the ball in tight situations. And a gentleman off the park. I mean, he's been a great ambassador for West Ham United Football Club and England. So what more can you say about Trevor?
Obviously the outside image has changed, Bill, but what about the inner man?
No, not changed. No, I'm still the same. I mean, I remember this incident. It was Alvin. As his studs put a boot into my face against Preston, and I had to come off the field. Stevie Bacon took that one, so I remember that quite well. But no, not changed. I mean, I just believe in giving 100% of whatever you do. I mean, and try and do the job as well as I can. If it don't work, it don't work. Simple as that. But you just try and give 100%.
The beard and the long hair, I mean, it gave you a sort of a swashbuckling image, didn't it? And the hard tackling and the hard running.
Well, the beard would still be there now, but it's grey now. So if I don't shave, it's a grey beard. So I would probably still have a beard now, but it's a grey beard. So I don't bother with it anymore now. But no, I mean, I was a little bit wild in those days. I mean, that was me. But didn't do me any harm. So didn't do other people any harm. A few bruises, but that's about it.
Obviously no regrets then about your move from the Valley to Upton Park. I mean, it really has been
I mean, it's terrific. I mean, I've never regretted that at all. It's never uprooted my family. All my family are still in the area. So, that's how I wanted it. It was lovely. Great move.
Over the years, since your playing days and now as a manager, the game has changed, hasn't it? The pattern of play has changed. We haven't got all the great personalities that many of whom you've mentioned today. What is the change that's taken part?
I think, it's like I said to you earlier on, I think when I first came into the game, you had half a dozen players in each side, all very, very talented. It's not like now you might have one player or two players are a little bit special, but I don't think probably players are any less skillful now, but I think they get a lot less time to perform their skills in, and are asked to work a lot more on other things, closing the ball down, shutting the ball down, squeezing teams up. It's much more organised football now. I mean, basically we went out and just played. If they had a good player, you might man-to-man mark them, but basically we just went out and played. Now it has changed a lot, the game now. It's much more organised, much quicker, players are fitter, and players do have a lot less time to perform their skills.
And a lot more pressure, of course, from the media as well.
Yeah, I think that's come into it. There's a lot more pressure from the media now. I mean, I don't agree with it. I mean, it isn't good, some of the media coverage now. There's a lot more pressure all round. I think supporters want more now. I think they expect more. I don't know whether it's players earn a lot more money now and they expect, they're asking more of players. I don't know, but there is more pressure in the game now, and it's more about winning now. I think you've got to be a winner in the game nowadays.
So, Bill, what is your ambition as a manager? You said earlier that the teams you played in, in fact, with the Bobby Moore and Peters, etc., were never going to win the league championship. Would your ambition be to take West Ham United to the championship?
I think that's getting harder and harder to do now. I mean, I look at it at the moment, and I'd have to say there's only 3 or 4 teams who can win the league championship now. I mean, it would be marvellous. I'd love to be even in contention for the league championship. That would be great. But I think it's getting harder and harder now, because I think you're gradually getting a few sides now who can do that now. Your Liverpools, your Arsenals, Man United maybe, and maybe 1 or 2 others. But I think that's getting harder and harder now.
A nice challenge then for your second career.
That'd be a marvellous challenge. Yeah, I mean, nothing's impossible in this game. You never know, but that'd have to be everybody's. That would be, as a player, I never got near to winning the championship. I mean, that's everybody's. Like we're saying about the FA Cup final. As a professional, that's every kid's dream, the FA Cup final. But I think as a professional footballer, the championship's the one, because you're doing it over the course of 42 games or whatever, And I've never got close to winning that as a player, not remotely close. And I wonder if I ever will as a manager. But yeah, it'd be fun trying.
Billy Bonds having a great season with West Ham. It's nice to see an old guy like Billy Bonds doing well, isn't it?
He's been a great professional as a player. I mean, he played for about 17 years and he was loved by the West Ham fans and by the players as well. I was a little bit surprised that he went into management, because I don't think he looked the type prior to that. He was such a family man, and football management takes up so much of your time and commitment. But he came just after Lou Macari left, and I think it was a very popular choice, because they're a little bit like Liverpool, West Ham. They keep it in the family and they play in a certain tradition and a certain fashion, and it's been a marvellous success for him. I mean, he's hardly lost any games at all this year, and he must be absolutely delighted the way things have gone.
Looks like he's turned out to be a good choice as manager then.
Yeah, well, this season it takes more than one season, but he certainly had a great start, and it looks as though West Ham are up. Well, they are up now, which is terrific news for your first season. And he knows, he's sensible enough to know it's not as easy as that, and there will be ups and downs next year, and they may have to try and get 2 or 3 players, but he certainly went off with a bang.
What about Billy Bonds, the player? You played against him, of course.
100% player, terrific energy, great enthusiasm, and Billy played even when he was 37 or 38. He played as though he was a 17-year-old kid. So much enthusiasm, and he was a dynamic type of character, and I think he was very respected by everybody at West Ham.
That really was the hallmark of him, though, the 100% effort, wasn't it?
Yeah, his flying hair as well, wasn't it? I mean, I don't know if he's got his hair cut now, but he used to have the long hair, and he was such a terrific physique and everything else, and kept himself very fit, and was a little bit unlike a lot of football players who like to go out and enjoy themselves afterwards. Billy evidently was on the quiet side and just finished up, and he was out the bath and away before anybody else had changed. So it was a little bit of a surprise, as I say, that he became a manager, but up until now it's been terrific for him.
And as a skipper, Billy Bonds lifted the FA Cup twice, of course, in 75 against Fulham and 80 against your old team Arsenal.
Yeah, I think you need players like that on your side. Billy, he's always driving himself on, and you're never satisfied. I was that kind of player as well. Even in practice matches, always wanted to win, and it's a driving force that you need in football. And Alan Mullery and Dave Mackay and all these kind of guys were of that calibre, that type of ingredient in their makeup. And Billy had that never say die attitude, and I think that is one of the main reasons why the West Ham people love him.